NFL Week 14 is here, and we have a handful of games that we're going to walk through, do some big game breakdowns. For those of you who do not know us, we are Statletics. We love walking through some of the bigger games of each week in the regular season and really rely on our model projections to kind of deduce what we think is going to happen in these games, try to make a prediction that really leans heavily into our model projections. So lots of fun here. We just love talking ball. So if this is for you, then you are in the right place. So coming off of a really fun NFL Week 13, some surprising wins, some surprising losses, a couple of storylines that are, going to carry over into this next week and certainly play a role in some of these games. Beach, last night's game was phenomenal. We were just talking about it before we turned it on. So I'm hoping we get that same energy rolling into this next week. We do have a few games with divisional implications, maybe some playoff seeding on the line as well, specifically this week's Thursday night football game. So it's going to be a good week, man. I'm excited about this. We have 5 games, I think, lined up on the docket for you guys. So if you have a particular game that you want to watch, just make sure you scroll through and find that game. BJ, how we doing, man?
We're doing good. We're getting down to the wire here, into the season, into the fantasy football season's coming pretty soon. So excited about that. But there's this is a week that's going to determine a lot moving forward. So we'll have to see what unfolds. Hoping for more Browns versus Broncos though.
Yeah, me too, man.
It's insane.
I want to keep the streak rolling. The model's doing pretty hot. It's been a pretty solid month for me in the sports books, so I'm happy about that. I want to keep it going. Last week we hit on the Colts, the Raiders, and the Rams to cover if those are model picks. This week we're rolling in. We only have 2: Eagles -12, Titans -3.5. So won't get into that. You can find our model projections on Twitter. You can see them on the screen as well. But we really love those. They're really helpful to us. Put a lot of time and effort into those, BJ. So they're worth something, I think. Okay, first game of the week, Thursday night football. Big matchup between the Packers and the Lions. Packers coming off of a really impressive win at home against the Dolphins, 30-17 victory against Tua and company. Green Bay is 9-3. That puts them in the driver's seat for a wild card, but due to the Lions, man, it's not like they have this division locked up. They're a couple games behind them, and so for the Lions, they don't necessarily need this victory for divisional implications, but what they do need this victory for, BJ, is they're in the rat race for the first seed in the NFC. They're fighting with the Eagles and the Vikings in that race. So big win right here would kind of lock up, would put them in the driver's seat for the 1 seed in the NFC side as we're a couple weeks out of the playoffs. So big game for multiple different reasons. I know both teams, aside from the implications, would just love the win for the sake of divisional rivalries. So 2 juggernauts going to go head-to-head in Detroit. It is a dome game, so no weather that we have to worry about. Detroit Lions are 3.5-point home favorites, Beach. But one thing we have to say, we have to point out the injuries on the defensive side of the ball. You could argue that up until this point of the season, they have lost arguably 8 starters, most of those guys on IR just due to injury. The biggest ones being Aiden Hutchinson, Alex Anzalone. They have a lot of secondary guys that have dropped down. They're, in and out. We don't even really know what's going on back there. So that is something we want to point out as we talk about this game is the Lions, they are a juggernaut. They are a powerhouse of a team, but the injuries on the defensive side of the ball is going to be hard to overcome. So they're going to really have to rely on the offense to control the clock, make sure they don't allow the Packers to have the ball too much, and really kind of mitigate some of the errors that the defense probably is going to make against this really, really strong Green Bay team. So, BJ, how worried are you about this Detroit Lions defense? Are you in a panic mode, or do you think they can overcome this? What do you think?
I'm not too worried, strictly from what you just said about they're going to have to rely on their offense to control the clock, and I think they can do that. Last year their defense was worse than what it is this year, and they still, I don't know how many wins they had last year. 9? Did they get to 10 in the regular season?
Lions? You talking about the Lions? Yeah.
So the defense doesn't have to be great to for them to win football games, and I'm definitely more worried than I would be if they weren't injured. I think the Packers are going to be able to spark some big plays in this game. But I do believe that the Lions have a good enough rushing attack to control the clock, control the game, kind of do what they want. And I think the Lions end up winning this game because of that. But I do think it'll be a really close game.
Yeah. So, BJ, we're both thinking that this is going to be a close game. That's not out of the question. But you like the Packers to cover, but the Lions to win, and a fun one. I have the Packers covering and winning outright. Now, I'm not I am, confident in my analysis here and how I think this game's going to roll down. But I don't think the Packers go in here and just absolutely take it to Detroit. I think Detroit obviously is going to be could very well drive this game in every which way. But looking at how both teams performed last week, one thing we noticed with the Detroit Lions is they really felt the effects of their missing starters on the defensive side of the ball. Their numbers still look pretty good, but on the defensive side of the ball, their numbers are starting to falter a little bit. They're back down to 7th overall in EPA per play and 21st overall in defensive success rate on the year. So those numbers are skewing downwards just due to the lack of defensive efficiency on the side of the ball. They really give it up in the air. They're 27th in the league in passing yards per game allowed. They give up nearly 270 passing yards per game. This really might open the doors for Jordan Love to air it out. He's got a slew of receivers that can catch the ball and make big plays at any given moment. So I look at what the Bears were able to do with a incompetent head coach nonetheless. Eberflus is fired. That was some of the big news out of Week 13. But you look at what the Bears were able to do against this Detroit team. They were able to show up and make big plays when they needed to, more so in the second half. But they put it on film that Detroit can be beat. And so I think the key to success here is the Packers coming out, firing first, kind of playing Detroit's game, being the ones to control the clock, being the ones to utilize both sides of their game, really leverage the play action to make the younger guys and the backups that are in to make more mistakes on the defensive side of the ball. Green Bay offense, really solid 10th overall in EPA per play, adjusted 20th overall in success rate on the offensive side of the ball. They can air it out. That's no success. They're also running the ball really, really well. Josh Jacobs having a career year. They're 2nd overall in rushing yards per game, averaging 167 yards on the ground. So I really like this offense to come in here and make a splash. I think it's going to be close because you look at what Detroit's offense is doing. They're doing, even better than that. Detroit 3rd overall in EPA per play, 3rd overall in offensive success rate. They're top 5 in both passing and rushing metrics. It's going to be hard, to stop that. So it's going to be, what can the Green Bay offense do to kind of project ahead of this Detroit offense as well? And so it's going to be a rat race. I don't want to say there's going to be a lot of points scored here because I think that a lot of teams like to bleed the clock out, but I don't think there's going to be hardly any 3 and outs. That's for sure. So, BJ, if you're Green Bay and you're their defense, what's your first point of attack here? What's your game plan going into this game? How do you decide who you want to stop?
If I'm Green Bay's defense?
If I'm Green Bay's defense.
I'm stopping the run. I'm stopping the run. I'm stopping the run because if the Lions can run on you, then, big plays are bound to happen on play action and with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So if you can stymie the run, then I think that the Packers are well enough on the back end to be able to stop the Lions offense. But that's what I would, if they can't do that, I think the Lions will win this game.
Mm-hmm. Now, they are better at stopping the run than they are at stopping the pass. One thing they do is they make explosive plays on the defensive side of the ball. They have big-time plays, but they're not very consistent right now. You can still kind of hit them more consistently and garner up some yardage and some points against Green Bay's defense, but they're certainly better at stopping the rush than they are the pass. But to me, it's going to be, what's the happy medium? Do you send the house after Jared Goff and try and load the box and stop the run? Well, then you have guys like Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, and Sam Laporta seems to be back on the scene. So it's going to be tough sledding here. The model has the Packers 22.5, the Lions 24. So it likes the Packers to cover, Lions to win, right where you had a BJ. It's going to be tough, man. The numbers paint a beautiful picture for a very, very fun game. And if you just love the mechanics of football and the tacticals, it's going to be a beautiful game. I don't think it's going to be the game that everybody expects it to. Everybody's going to be like, 31-30, points scored everywhere. I just don't see it being like that because the way that these two teams play the game of football, they go relatively slow, and so I'm anticipating this game. I don't have a take either which way on the over or under, but I do like both of these offenses to find success, and it very well, more than likely, will be who has the ball last and who's more consistently successful and who can just get that one or two defensive stops when it matters the most. I think that'll be the game. I think the Packers are just healthier right now, and I think they really, really need this game. So, Packers, buckle it in.
They need this game to muddy up the division a little more. They've got three of the top teams in the NFC in that division.
Yeah, it's very, very improbable. But if dominoes were to fall this way, they theoretically could, by the last week of the season, jump the Lions if the Lions have some sort of collapse end of season. But yeah, no, the Lions are comfortably ahead in terms of divisional race. So now they're really just playing for seeding. So it's going to be a fun one, though. Divisional game. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe, comment your favorite picks. Let us know what we got right, what we got wrong. We love looking at that. It's just some of you guys are really outlandish. It never fails to amaze me. So never boring. Also, the show is brought to you by Not Beer, American Sparkling Water. Over on BJ's side of the corner here, you can see it at the bottom. It is never a bad time to have a Not Beer. You can mix it with anything. You can have it outright. Beautiful American Sparkling Water. Make sure to find the links in the comments for that stuff. Not Beer, American Sparkling Water. Okay, Chargers at Chiefs. One of the more underrated kind of, newer rivalries in the league over the past couple of years, really driven by the Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert rivalry. Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes has really owned this rivalry just over time. But, it's the dynamic of this game is always fun. It's always expect the unexpected. There's fireworks, whenever you don't expect fireworks and vice versa. So Chiefs are -4 as they host the Chargers. Chargers are coming off of a solid win against the Falcons. They went into Atlanta, won outright. They are down their starting running back, J.K. Dobbins. So the run game, little shaky. Chiefs, BJ, we saw what they did in the Black Friday game. They almost gave it up to the Raiders. Some BS calls there at the end. I don't even want to get into it, but once again, the Chiefs' voodoo magic prevails. So hopefully this time we get a little bit more fair of a game. Nothing crazy, nothing wild, nothing to drive us crazy. So Chiefs -4 as they host the Chargers. Chargers are down J.K. Dobbins. This defense is going to be one of the tougher tests that the Chargers have faced all year. Now, Ladd McConkey is also beat up a little bit. I expect him to play, but nonetheless, the Chargers' weapons are of a concern. Mm-hmm. Are you confident that Justin Herbert can go into Arrowhead against one of the toughest defenses in the league, a team that's 10th overall in EPA per play allowed, 12th overall in defensive success rate? Do you think he can still make big plays and keep this game close?
I do think Justin Herbert can still make big plays and make this thing close. I've said the last 3 weeks, I think he's playing like a top 3 QB in the league right now, regardless of what anybody else does on his team. And now that they have lost J.K. Dobbins and they have the course of Gus Edwards running the ball, they're not going to be able to run the ball in this game. I do not believe they're going to.
At all.
I know. They got to get him more involved, but the Chiefs are very good against the run. I don't think that they are going to find much success running the ball in this game. And so if they can keep it in Justin Herbert's beautiful playmaking hands, I think that he can make some big plays here, regardless of, they need Ladd in there for sure. If Quentin Johnson can't catch a ball. So it's kind of like Ladd and Josh Palmer in there. Maybe some Will Dissly tight end, but I think that from what I've seen the last couple of weeks, I think that Herbert can keep this game close.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Yeah, I certainly think he's a top 5 QB in my mind. And if I was
Mhm.
starting a franchise today, he would be top 5, arguably top 3. It's he elevates the players around him. It's just tough sledding because he doesn't have a dude. A lot of these other big quarterbacks have a dude. That
Give him T. Higgins next
absolutely.
year.
I
That'd
would
be
be very much
sick.
on that if T.
That'd
Higgins'
be
hamstring
awesome.
decided not to go out every other day, but.
It does that.
But yeah, the Chargers are now 4-2 against the spread on the road following their Sunday's win. They're 2-1 in division games, and the Chiefs are 2-4 against the spread at home. So, little interesting trends here. But the Chiefs, nonetheless, are 11-1. They're well in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed, with the Bills just right there nipping at their heels behind them. BJ, this game. Chargers, Chiefs -4. We mentioned the model has it as 17.5 to 21 in favor of the Chiefs. So right there, right near what the Vegas spread has. You like the Chargers to cover and the Chiefs to win in a close one.
Yeah,
I like the Chiefs to win and cover outright. I love the Chargers in the way that they're playing, albeit they beat my Falcons last week. But I think it's going to be hard to overcome the lack of playmakers. The only thing they have going for them right now is the exceptional play by Justin Herbert and the exceptional play of their defense. But to me, the Chiefs' defense here, the way that the numbers that they're bolstering, on top of the fact that Patrick Mahomes is sneakily playing better. This Kansas City offense now, they're up to 9th overall in EPA per play. They're 1st overall in offensive success rate. So they are consistently driving the ball downfield successfully. So Patrick Mahomes is elevating his game a little bit. Something I never thought I would say, but he is getting better as the year goes out. And I think it's a bad momentum timing. The Chargers are losing guys here and there. They're losing playmakers, slowing down a little bit, even though they did win a big one last week. And the Chiefs are kind of trending upwards. I know, remove what we saw last week and how they almost lost to the Raiders. That is a rivalry game in itself. The Raiders were playing lights out. You know how bad they wanted that game. The Chiefs here, like we just mentioned, top 10 in offensive metrics at this point, advanced metrics. Also top 10 in advanced metrics on the defensive side of the ball. They're also amazing at stopping the run. They're 5th overall in rushing yards per game allowed. They only allow 88 yards per game. So for a team that's already down their starting running back and who's heavily relied on the run game, it's just hard for me to see the Chargers coming in here, establishing the run game, in which also they lean heavily into their play action game. I just don't see it. It's really hard for me to kind of dream that up. And as the Chiefs offense, as Patrick Mahomes works well with DeAndre Hopkins and gaining that chemistry, Travis Kelce still's got some weird stuff going on, but Isaiah Pacheco is back as well. I like the Chiefs at home in primetime. It's a primetime game, so.
Yeah, weird stuff happens in primetime games, like the Chargers covering,
Yeah. Yeah. They were in primetime last week against the Raiders, so you can make that argument as well.
Yeah.
So, any closing comments? What do you think? I know you got something going on.
I mean, for me, the Chiefs should have like nearly 3 more losses on the season. They just win these games, and it's not pretty, and they do get a little helping hand from the Zebras every now and then. But I'm confident in Justin Herbert being able to elevate this team and keeping it really close. It is a divisional game. The Chargers won't win the division. They're like, 3 or 4 games behind the Chiefs in the division, but they are competing for seeding in the wild card spot, and they are currently tied with the other 2 teams. If the season ended today, with the other 2 teams and the Ravens and the Broncos, they're tied. So I think they really need this win. I think they care a lot about this game, and it's a rivalry game. I think it stays really close.
Yep. This game always ends up being so fun. I mean, we've seen a few overtime games, a few last-minute touchdown games. It's never not fun. So I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it. I'm normally not excited about Chiefs games. Those are, a lot of people like to watch them, and they always get big primetime slots and stuff. They're not an enjoyable team to watch right now. But this week, I have a good feeling that this game is going to surprise a lot of folks. So, Bills at Rams. Rams 4.5-point home favorites. Bills are coming off of a splattering of the 49ers last week in a beautiful snow game, by the way. Josh Allen both passed, rushed, and caught a touchdown. So the man can do it all. Also got engaged last week to his little lady friend. So he's riding high. Something to note. That's a football analysis. Point total here is 49. The model has this game as 23.5 to 19.5 Bills. So right around what Vegas spread is. So no discrepancy there. BJ, you have the Bills to win and cover. I have the Bills to win here. I have no comment on the point spread here. I actually think the Rams might be able to keep this one close for a couple of reasons here, but Buffalo offense playing hotter than none. I mean, EPA, 5th overall in the league, adjusted, 13th overall success rate on the offense side of the ball, and you pivot over and you look at what the LA defense is, man, they're 30th in the league in both of those metrics. They also allow 231 passing yards per game. They also give up 158 rushing yards per game on the ground. So this Buffalo offense is licking their chops. So point spread is only 4.5. You would think, based off of that little glimpse into the point spread right there, that it would be a bit wider margin. So let's talk about why that's going on here, Beej. Los Angeles offense is still really, really good. You know, now that they have Puka Nacua back and Cooper Kupp back, they can absolutely drive the football down the field, you know, at will sometimes. I mean, you look at it, they're only 18th overall in adjusted EPA per play, but they're second overall in offensive success rate. So they're consistently successful. McVay is really, really good play caller. This is nothing that nobody already knows. Buffalo defense, you can absolutely run the football against this team too. You know, they're 31st in the league in rushing yards per attempt. They want you to do that, you know? And so I have a feeling they'll want the Rams to do this again, but with a guy like Matthew Stafford slinging that tater, you can still exploit the defense here a little bit. So, Bidge, I do think the Rams keep it close and competitive. I just love the way that this game lays out for both teams. I think it's going to be more offensively driven, more so than the defense. The only concern I have is the Rams' offensive line. They're pretty bad at giving up pressures. They allow they allow over 11 pressures per game. So Buffalo defense could have a field day there. But if the Rams can hold up on the offensive line front, this game could be close. But we've seen Josh Allen do it again and again and again. He gets everybody involved on the offense. This week he had Mac Hollins catching touchdowns. So yeah. It's like impossible to stop. So similar question to how I asked you, if you were Green Bay, how do you stop the Lions offense? If you're the Rams and your defense is shitty, now I say that, metrically speaking, they're bad, but they have some dudes that they drafted this offseason, namely Jared Verse, who's really come onto the scene lately. He can make a splash, but if you're the Rams defense and you're Sean McVay, what's your game plan here to try and stop Josh Allen, who just seems virtually unstoppable?
Yeah, well, I think something that pretty much the way I answered the last one also, you got to make a team one-dimensional if you're going to kind of dictate how they're going to run their offense. So I don't feel like you're going to be able to contain – sorry, Harley's going crazy. I don't think you can contain Josh Allen throwing the ball and playmaking like he does. So for me, again, I say if you can stop the rushing attack from the running backs, I don't know if you're going to be able to stop Josh's rushing attack, but if you can stop it from the design carries to the running backs, I think that it will really help them in coverage, just to kind of be putting them in plus, or put the Bills in minus yard situations, and third and longs to be able to try to counteract that. That's what I would start with.
Yeah, I mean, this Bills rushing attack is sneaky good. I mean,
it's so good.
They're averaging over 120 yards per game on the ground, 4.3 yards per carry. It's really solid. It's really, really solid. One thing that they do well is they don't allow pressures on the offensive side of the ball. Their offensive line is holding up really good. Now, a lot of that is due to the ability of Josh Allen to just get out and make plays. His pocket awareness is really great. We all know he's great with his legs. So that's partially due to that. But if Jared Verse can let loose a little bit, tackle him, wrap them up and make some big plays. I think that's a good start there as well. But I love the idea stopping the run and just making Josh Allen, one-dimensional in a way. He still could beat you that way. Mm-hmm. But you gotta hope that your secondary can make some plays, and then maybe he's a little off here and there with his timing. So I agree, man. That's a good wrap up there.
You just can't let an offense do whatever they want. Kind of the way the Lions can kind of do whatever they want. Typically, you got to take something away that gives you at least some edge. So that's where I would go with that.
And I think that this similar to the Green Bay and Lions game. A lot of people are expecting fireworks and points. You would kind of expect that here. It's the second highest total game on the slate at 49 points, but history shows that when two offensive-minded teams go head-to-head against each other, they tend to actually be lower scoring, and so I could see that playing out here. They also slowed the game down quite a bit. The Rams and the Buffalo Bills do. So they only average 9.4 drives per game. LA offense does. So whereas the league hovers a little below 11 more often than not, some teams, more. So I could see the Rams. We harp on this a lot, but if the Rams really do take advantage of the Bills letting them run the ball up the middle, it could be a big Kyron Williams game, and they get down to the red zone and actually make a big play in the passing game with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and kind of press on the throat a little bit, it could go in favor of the Rams. Absolutely. Yeah. So
I think they need to do that. And I think that they can get explosive plays from doing that. If run the ball with Kyron, he's a very explosive player. You can definitely get big plays that way.
If there's anybody that can scheme up a phenomenal run game that is consistently successful, it's Sean McVay. So it could be a fun one. Don't sleep on the Rams here. Their defense is a huge gaping hole. That's a problem, of course. But other than that, I really like the Rams to cover here, keep it close. But I do like the Bills to win. They're just too good right now. They're just too good.
They are.
Oh, man. Underrated game of the week. We have an infatuation with the NFC West here on the show. I know they're not the most lovable teams by the casual public, but man, we just love it. It's chaotic in a way. Some underrated teams and talent littered across this division. Seahawks traveled to Arizona to play the Cardinals. Cardinals coming off of a tough loss against the Vikings last week. Seahawks coming off of a close win last week against the Jets. Cardinals are 2.5-point home favorites. Point totals only at 44.5. Our model is showing a 2-point spread for the Arizona Cardinals rather than a 2.5-point spread. This is going to be fun. It could be ugly, but it's going to be fun nonetheless. These two teams are going head to head in a rat race for this division. I mean, all teams in this division are either at or below 500. It truly is amazing how this division is going to shake out. Seahawks are 7-5. Cardinals are 6-6. I misspoke. I meant the Seahawks are the only team above 500. So the Cardinals need this win desperately bad. Cardinals a favorite. Seahawks coming off a big win. Seahawks did win the last matchup between these two teams earlier in the season, BJ. Jackson Smith-Njigba has come onto the scene. DK Metcalf is a little banged up, but I expect him to play nonetheless. Kenneth Walker is banged up too. We'll be monitoring his status, but assuming he can go or Zach Charbonnet is going to take over that backfield, I don't expect much of a drop off there. They're only, like you mentioned earlier before the show started, they're only averaging 88 yards per game on the ground. So it's not like the run game is a huge factor anyway.
No, but they throw it a million times.
They do. They're first in pass rate over expected. So no surprise there, especially for a guy like Ryan Grubbs as the play caller who essentially was brought in to enhance the passing game. So big game for the NFC West. A lot of divisional implications here. Cardinals need this win as they host the Seahawks. Seahawks need this win to stay atop. So as we look at this game, BJ, you like the Seahawks to win, to cover and win. I like the Cards to hold their ground at home. Now, again, this is essentially a pick'em in my mind. I mean, I know the point spread is 2.5, but it's like it's a pick'em. It's a coin flip in my mind. So, both teams hit or miss, I would say. I can't sit here and say one team is playing really bad, one team is playing really good, and vice versa, because both teams, they could go out there and beat mostly everybody on any given day, but on any other given day, they can go out there and lose to anybody. And so, I mean, you look at the Cardinals last week, they could have won that game if they were a little bit more aggressive and went for it in the fourth down in the red zone at the end of the game. And we're talking about a potential win against a 9-3 Vikings team with a little bit more aggressive success in Week 13. Seahawks, they've been hit or miss. Their defensive woes have been the biggest issue. Also, one of the more unluckier teams with just the way that plays turn out. I mean, you see these like wild turnovers that are just like, how the hell did that even happen? But nonetheless, BJ, I expected this total to be a bit higher. I thought this was going to be more of a offensive-driven game, just given the status of the Seahawks defense. I mean, they're boasting a 19th overall in EPA per play allowed, 18th overall in success rate allowed. If you pivot over to Arizona's defense, 25th overall in EPA per play allowed, 32nd overall in success rate allowed.
It's really good.
Yeah, so both teams are, really Arizona's just bottom third of the league. Seahawks are bottom half. I mean, It could be ugly in the best way possible.
Well, I'll tell you this, the game earlier in the year, probably says hi, everybody. The game earlier in the year, 16-6.
Lovely.
That is the nastiest score I've ever heard in my life. So that's why I feel like it's the total's not as high. But I think the opposite is going to happen this game. This is their second round of each other. I think that they're going to be able to generate a lot more explosive plays. They've seen the defenses react to their respected offenses. So it will not be another 16-6 one, I think.
Yeah, it's tough because it's really hard to beat a team twice. And you see that in divisional games across the board. Unless you're a juggernaut, it's really hard to beat a team twice. And so that's one reason you could argue for the Cardinals just irregardless of any numbers or any injuries or any gut feel about this game. It's just really hard to beat a team twice. But the Seahawks, one thing they do have going for them is the Cardinals run a lot of too high. And so when you defenses that run too high, when Geno faces those teams, rambling over here, he's extremely successful. In fact, Geno Smith versus too high coverage, 7.68 yards per attempt, 6th among all qualifying QBs, 71% completion percentage, and 7.7% completion percentage over expected, first in the league. So Geno Smith could come in here and have an absolute day now that he's comfortable in this new offense. We got to talk about that too. That's one thing is like this is a first-year offensive play caller. And Geno Smith's first year in this system, there's a lot of growing pains, and you still see that as the offense continues to evolve throughout the year. Jackson Smith-Njigba didn't really come onto the scene until halfway through the season, and he's playing great football.
Mm-hmm.
So different game, different schematics. I'm sure there's going to be different tendencies that each team leans towards in this game. Now, for the Cardinals, you can easily pass the ball against this team. I mean, 30th overall in passing yards per attempt, 20th overall in passing yards per game allowed. And I mean, rushing stats are not much better. I mean, they're averaging 153 yards given up on the ground per game too. So, I mean, the Seahawks, if they're aggressive and they game plan right, they could exploit this Cardinals defense. But Kyler Murray, hit or miss as well. We've talked about him plenty of times on the show. He's had games where he's ripped up the 49ers and had a day. And then he's had games like the 16-6 loss against the Seahawks earlier this year where he just decides not to show up to the games. Maybe, the Call of Duty narrative is in play again. So, but
when's a double XP weekend? He'll play bad.
Yeah. So you never know, man. You never know what this offense, they're also growing and evolving. Just with Jonathan Gannon, this is second year. it's hard to say that this offense and discern what they're going to do when they have young guys on the field as well. Marvin Harrison Jr. Being the big name that is hit or miss as well. James Conner, though, is having a career year in this Cardinals offense, and I really think they're going to try and funnel this offense through him. Seattle is 27th overall in rushing yards per game. They give 145 yards per game on the ground. So I can see him easily hosting the Seahawks and trying to funnel this offense through James Conner. And by doing so, by default, they want to keep Geno Smith and the offense off of the field. And then when they are on the field, they're going to try and push them to make bigger plays in a quicker manner, and kind of try and put them in a bad spot at first to open up the game. So I like the Cardinals here. I do not trust their defense, but I think their offense, if they can figure it out, and if they come in with the right game plan, I think they can absolutely pace this game and beat the Seahawks outright and really make a mess of this division. BJ, you like the Seahawks here, though, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to like the Seahawks in this game. You just mentioned Geno Smith versus Too High, this offense and its evolution into the game. The fact that the Cardinals defense is really, really bad in a lot of facets. So elaborate that. Do you think that this game is going to rely on the success of Geno Smith and company on the offensive side of the ball, or do you think there's a chance that this defense, especially when you have a coach like Mike McDonald, who this defense hasn't been that great, but the head coach is really a good defensive mind.
Yeah.
So do you think they can come into your game plan and stop Kyler Murray and the Cardinals?
It's always difficult to think that you can really game plan against a mobile quarterback. So I think that they're at a disadvantage with that. But the Seahawks have shown that they can't run the ball. They're averaging, I think, under 100 yards a game.
Yeah.
Like under 90, I think it's 88. So, they throw the ball a shit ton. They're going to need to. And I think that they can expose this Cardinals defense, like you were elaborating earlier on their scheme with JSN trending up. DK hopefully is not too banged up. I will say one thing. If I were them, I would abandon the run game completely and just have a screen game be an extension of the running games. If that was me, that's what I do in Madden. But this game, like you said at the beginning, it's to pick them with these guys. But I do like Seattle to come in here and kind of assert their dominance in this division. I think that this is the week where they can really provide that separation.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited to it. I really want the Cardinals to win. I confidence they can come out and make a mess of this division, but Seahawks, I think absolutely have a great chance to win this game as well. So should be a fun game. It might be ugly in the best way possible, but fun nonetheless. So moving on, Falcons travel to Minnesota to play the Vikings. Vikings are 9-3 right now. Falcons are 6-6. They're back tied in the division with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So brutal stretch down the past month for the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins is playing very, very poorly right now. Essentially no touchdowns over the past 3 games. He threw 4 picks last week against the Chargers. Again, we already talked about the Vikings. They are coming off of a really, really tight win, 23-22 against the Cardinals, last-minute field goal to end that one. I can't get over how badly the Falcons are playing right now. It's just tough for me to stomach as a Falcons fan. And as well as we talk about this game and break down this game. Also, Kirk Cousins revenge game. Definitely want to make that very, very clear. So
it's all about the narrative.
It is.
It's all about the narrative.
We can talk about these stats and these numbers, and they don't really mean anything. It's always about the narrative, right? And so it always is. But golly, man, it was an ugly loss, 17-3 specifically. It's just tough. Falcons are 3-2 against the spread in road games this year. Minnesota Vikings hold the same mark as a home team. I want to just make it clear, I am a Falcons fan. If you watch this show regularly, you know that I'm a Falcons fan. So it's really hard for me talk about this team particularly in an objective way, but I try my best. The Atlanta offense is still decent. It's not great, but they're still good from a metric point of view. Now, the production and the capitalization of certain things, like especially in the red zone, is piss poor. And so one of the better teams between the 20s, are you outside of last week's game, but they just can't get anything going. And now, honestly, Kirk Cousins is not playing good ball right now. And they're about to go up against a defense that pressures at the highest rate in the NFL. And it's not any secret that Kirk Cousins struggles against the blitz, struggles against pressure. And so the Atlanta Falcons are decent up front, but they're not amazing. They're no Eagles or they're no Lions. And so one of the biggest things that I'm worried about for the Falcons is the ability to hold up against this pressure and Kirk Cousins to make plays, because he hasn't made any this past month. Certainly looks like a different version of himself compared to a month ago. And so as we go into this game, BJ, you like the Falcons to cover and potentially win outright in this game.
Oh, give it to me.
I like the Vikings here. I hate picking against my team, but I'm going to do it for the reverse jinx.
Oh, it always works. It always works.
It always does work.
We ride at the reverse jinx.
For the reverse jinx. So Vikings are 5.5 point favorites. I thought that was a bit low based off of what the Falcons are doing. They're still capable, but thought it was a bit low. We look at this Minnesota offense, man. Sam Darnold is doing just fine. 12th overall in EPA per play, 11th overall in offensive success rate. They average nearly 7.5 yards per attempt in the passing game. Rushing game, not great, not bad. Aaron Jones is having a really, really good year for this team, albeit he's having some turnover problems. He does put the ball on the ground. He did it twice last week in the game against the Cardinals, so something to note. But this Atlanta defense is nothing to be excited about. They're getting guys back healthier, especially in the secondary, but it's, again, nothing to be excited about. 23rd in EPA per play allowed, 27th overall in success rate allowed. You can run all over this team. Now, they're decent in the passing games from a yardage perspective. They only give up 200 yards per game and 6.2 passing yards per attempt in the air. But, man, you can absolutely run on this defense. They give up 143 rushing yards per game. So, could be a big Aaron Jones week. I'm not confident in the Falcons whatsoever, just due to the morale is low. I mean, this offense can't seem to get anything going. It's really only Bijan Robinson and nobody else right now, just because Kirk Cousins can't get anything going. And so in a game where they're going to blitz the shit out of a team as much as possible, and a quarterback that can't really get mobile like Kirk Cousins, I'm concerned. Are you concerned about the Falcons in that, right? Or do you think they can beat this blitz and make big plays in the offense and kind of twist the fate of the Falcons offense?
I'm 100% concerned if the play calling doesn't help your quarterback out. So can you, because I haven't watched it as closely, since you are a Falcons fan, do they have a lot of long developing plays, or don't they have like kind of get the ball out of your hands to your playmaker type deal? Because that's what they need to do against this heavy blitzing team in order to beat that.
And lately it's all been Bijan. Earlier in the year, what we did see was quick plays to Ray McLeod and Darnell Mooney, some here and there. Of course, Darnell Mooney has been such a key component in this offense, complementing Drake London. Both of them, I view them as like wide receiver 1A and 1B. It's not wide receiver 1 and 2. I mean, Darnell Mooney has contributed just as much to this offense as Drake London. Ray McLeod used to be that guy, not so much anymore. It's now Bijan that's taken the primary role, just running the football for one, but also taking those short passes underneath, the screen game underneath as well. So it's more been him as the gadget player. But one thing I have noticed is that Kyle Pitts his role has been reduced, and he hasn't been great. And honestly, there's probably a reason that his role has been reduced. He had under 50% snaps in the offense last week. But it's like, if there was ever a time to get him involved, bring him in and let him run some short stick routes. Check it down. Create some mismatch opportunities against the linebackers in this offense, especially a team that blitzes as much as they do. He would be the perfect guy to dink and dunk 5-yard outs and sticks and curls to. And it's like, if Kyle Pitts can't do that, then he may not be it for this Atlanta team. So, but yeah, it's kind of a headache a little bit here and there. And so I'm worried about Kirk Cousins, but I still think he's got a little bit left. We saw it earlier in the season. He was making those big plays. Look at what he did. He had the game-winning drive in the second game of the week against the Eagles. He had those big games against the Tampa Bay Bucks. It's there. He just needs to find it. And we really need the Falcons offensive coordinator to scheme up a game that really tailors to him and really tailors to beating the blitz. So
yeah. No, you can't rely on your receivers on these long going plays, like getting open. You need to. There will be space when heavy blitz teams they blitz. There is space. You have to have those playmakers get the ball in space and let them do what they do. So I remember. I think it was McLeod. He caught like a little screen on a blitz against the Eagles earlier in the year. Just took off. Gone. And so it might have been Mooney, but that's what they have to do. And I believe that's how the game's going to be called, because that's what I think they know they have to do that. They've seen this heavy blitzing defense all season.
Yep.
Got to do it.
So the model has this game at 25-21 in favor of the Vikings. So more of a 4-point spread instead of a full 5.5. So model kind of likes the Falcons to keep it close to, not to win, obviously, but to keep it closer than 5.5. So it's going to be interesting nonetheless. I really hope my Bears can pull it off, but just the way the downward trajectory of this offense, really this team as a whole, defense included, it's just not promising. And they're going against the Vikings team whose defense it's hit or miss in a lot of ways, but it's been hit more than miss. And I can't trust Kirk Cousins until he kind of gains that back. I do love the narrative here, the revenge game.
It's all about the narrative.
I know it's so we could see something absolutely bonkers here, but really hoping my Falcons can do it. But I like the Vikings to win here pretty handily. I think Kevin O'Connell is going to abuse this Falcons defense a little bit. That's a lower third in the league in all advanced metrics. So we'll see, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Week 14. We'll be here for the following weeks, and of course the playoffs. So make sure to catch us there. We appreciate you guys. Talk to you guys next week.